Hello, this is Heather with Creativity by Heather BE. Welcome to my channel. Today I am showing you a beautiful watercolor card using the new Simon Hurley Create products. So I want to quickly go through some of the products. There is one bundle that I did not get. I did also get all of the new inks that were released, which I believe was 6 of them, and a few of them you'll see in the video, but I'm not going to go through and show those in the video here. So the first thing is a leafy green stencil, and this is such a fun stencil. You could layer it, you could do multiple things with the stencil. You could also pair it with the next stencil here, which is Cordial Critters. Just so cute. I just love the fun and whimsical look of that. We also have the Timber background stamp, and what's nice about this stamp and many of Simon's stamps is it actually comes apart, so you could do the tree separately. Next, we have Prom Dress, which is the stamp we're going to be using in this video, and I love the name of this. It's so fun. We have Watercolor Blooms, which is just gorgeous, and I actually recently did a card for a coworker who's in the hospital but didn't record it with this background stamp. It was so beautiful. And then we have the fun School Scribbles, which how many of us had notebooks that look like this? And we have Flower Picking Friends, which I just love these little bears and the huge flowers. So much fun. There's a cute little fox up in the corner. This is just, this whole release is just so fun and whimsical. Next we have Bird Buddies, which we are also going to be using in the card that we're creating today. And we're going to be doing some watercoloring with that bird right there, who's so cute. And then we have Simon's first sentiment stamp set, which is called Encouraging Words. And I love the different fonts and the large size of this, and all of his stamp sets are so huge. They're just such a great value. And then I also have some of the Stark White cardstock, which is what I'm going to be using. I've never used Simon Hurley Stark White cardstock before, and I wanted to see how it would hold up doing some watercoloring. So that's what we're going to be using, along with the prom dress background, and then also later on the bird buddies. So one of the nice things about Simon Hurley's inks are that they react with water. So today we are going to be using to create the background Crown Me, which is a beautiful purple color, and this is one of the new inks that's just been released. And I will have all of the products listed below if you're interested. And I have to say, I actually ordered all of the inks when these last 6 were released. I think there's 18 total now. And so I've just started to play around with them. I've been really impressed with them, especially this watercolor, able to do the watercolor with them. So I am just using my Tim Holtz Tonic Guillotine cutter, and you'll notice that my guard is missing because when I bought this several years ago, I don't know what I was thinking, but the guard was getting in my way, so I removed it. And have I cut my finger on it? Yes, I have. So do not remove your guard. I have looked to try to get another one, and I have not been able to find it. So if you know where that small one is available, please leave a comment down below. So I am adding just a large sheet, and obviously this is bigger than my background, but I'm just adding a large sheet into my Misti, and you absolutely do not have to use a Misti for this. When I did the watercolor card that I told you I didn't film for a coworker, I did not use my Misti. So what I'm going to do is lay the stamp in and pick it up with my Misti door. And I did remove my Misti pad because I don't have the paper pad. I actually have the foam pad for my Misti. I found it just to be easier. I can clean it off. I don't have to worry about sheets tearing off. And I'll have that linked below as well. It's really inexpensive and it really lasts forever now. So I'm going to pick up the stamp and I'm going to use this gorgeous purple Crown Me. And I am going to ink that up really well, and then I'm going to spray it with my distress sprayer. So I'm just going through and inking this up. And this is on camera, this is the first time I've done this. This is the first time I'd use this ink. And I have to tell you, if there was volume, if I would have left that volume in, my reaction when I saw how gorgeous this stamped out, I couldn't believe it. I mean, my jaw dropped. It stamped out so well, and this color, oh my goodness, if you are a fan of purple, this is your color. It is Crown Me. It is so gorgeous. And I am stamping this up pretty generously just because this is a new stamp that has not been stamped before, and I didn't condition it in any way, which I probably should have. So just keep that in mind. If you have a new stamp, sometimes the first time it stamps, it won't come out perfect, just because the stamp needs to be conditioned. So I sprayed it with water, and I am pushing it down on my Misti, just kind of making sure everything is getting coverage on my paper. And there it is. And I could not believe it. You can see kind of my hands there. And I only stamped this one time. That was it. And you can see just the gorgeous, vibrant color it gives. And then the watercolor just, I cannot say enough about how impressed I was using this ink with the water. And so I'm going to take that out and just set it aside. Oh, I am going to heat set it just a little bit with my Wagner heat tool. And the reason I did that is because I didn't want, when I picked it up, I didn't want some of the places that were a little more wet and kind of pooled or puddled to run when I picked it up out of the Misti. So I'm going to set that off to dry. Thoroughly impressed with how this came out. And I will end up cutting that down to fit my card base, which I'll show you after we finish up our little bird. And there you can see just how beautiful that is. So I am using the Ink Road Stamp Chamois, and let me tell you, I've used many stamp chamois, and I bought this one, and it was so big that I thought it was 2 in the package when it was folded up. This is by far the best stamp chamois I've ever used. I will leave it linked below. It's thick, it works so well. I was so impressed with it. This was just a night of just being thoroughly impressed, I have to tell you. So now I am stamping out the little bird that's kind of tipping over on his side from Bird Buddies. And I'm using the Gina K Amalgam Black ink. This is a watercolor Copic friendly ink. And I like it because it gives a pretty stark black color. And I like to leave my stamps in my Misti when I do things like this, if I'm coloring or if I'm watercoloring, so then I can go back and stamp it again. So what I'm doing is I am just putting a little bit of the Over the Moon, which is a really pretty yellow color, down on my glass mat and spraying it with some water. And then I also added some Clear Skies. And that's what I'm going to use the most for this bird. And I am using a water brush, however, I do not have any water in it. The only water that I'm using is what I sprayed directly onto the ink. So I'm going through and I'm trying to do some shadowing just to kind of make it a little more realistic. And it was so simple to watercolor with these. And you'll see here in a moment, I'm actually going to use the ink pad directly. And I don't have any water in that brush at all, so I wasn't concerned about it going out onto my ink pad. And I'm going to go directly into the ink pad so I can get a little bit of a darker color to do some more of that shading. And I am going to use the Over the Moon up in the corner there for his face, like his eyes around his beak. Although, let me give you a little tip. I wished I had not done that when I did it. So what I did is I did not let the blue dry first. So because the blue is not dry, when I start to use the Over the Moon, that yellow is going to mix with the blue and it's going to come out green. So little tip, which I did not do and I knew better, was to let this dry first before you go in and add another color on top. Because if not, the colors are going to mix together and you're going to get maybe a color you want. In this case, I did not want him looking like he was sick. So I am actually going to off camera go back in with a yellow Copic marker and just go back over that part just so it doesn't look so green. And that was completely my fault. It had nothing to do with the inks. And for his little feet, I'm going to use one of the orange inks from Simon Hurley Creates, and that is Traffic Cone. And this was actually released in the first stamp release. So this is one of the original 12 inks, and it's a really pretty orange. And you'll see I'm trying to go back in and kind of cover up some of that yellowish green with it, just to get rid of some of that green. So I've got him done. I did cut him out, and I have a scan and cut, so I used the scan and cut, although he would be simple to cut out. And my prom dress background is completely dry now, and I also have cut a piece of Hues pitch black cardstock, and I'm going to use that as the backing panel, so the frame for my flower panel. So I'm going through and cutting this down because I want it to be smaller than an A2 size, because I want to have that black frame around it just to help everything pop. There's a lot of bright colors on here, and I didn't want it sitting on white. I wanted to make sure there was something that would help that panel to pop even more. So I'm just trimming down the sides, and I'm going to place my little bird right in the center. And then I chose a sentiment from the stamp set that says, "A little birdie told me," and I'm going to put that, stamp that, emboss it, with some Alabaster embossing powder. And this is from Brutus Monroe. This is their white embossing powder. And I'm also going to use their clear embossing ink. This is an embossing ink that stays wet for a little bit longer than like maybe a Versamark, and so I prefer this one just so I don't have to rush. And I am doing that sentiment on the Hues pitch black. I thought that white would really pop, and then it would kind of tie the frame in with everything. So I'm going to use my little spoon, just add some of the embossing powder. And I do have the coffee filter there, but generally when I'm doing something small like this, I can just dump it right back into my container. So once I have that done, I'm going to heat set it with my Wagner heat tool, and then I'm going to use my Nuvo surface sweep, which this is a really inexpensive tool that I reach for constantly in my craft room, and I will have it linked below. So I decided that I wanted to, the bird was so quirky, I wanted to give the sentiment that same kind of quirkiness. So I'm using a My Favorite Things slanted die, and it's only slanted on one side. So what I did is I die cut it on one side, and then I turned it around and die cut it on the other side so that both sides were slanted. I just thought it fit with the kind of funny quirkiness of the bird. I am raising my panel, giving it some dimension with some 3M foam tape. I'm just trying to decide which side I want facing up or at the top for my panel. And I'm going to put that on, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my little bird. And I had thought about putting him on a wobbler, and I actually do put him on a wobbler, but I didn't like it. So you're going to see the little action wobbler laying next to me here in just a moment up on the glass mat. But I actually am going to take that off and just use some foam tape to put him on. So I'm using the Lawn Fawn glue tube. It's a very strong adhesive. The Lawn Fawn, Gina K, My Favorite Things has one. Any of those adhesives, they all seem to work the same for me, so I just kind of whichever one I reach for out of my drawer. And I put my panel onto my card base, and now I'm going to use some foam tape to give my sentiment some dimension, and also so that my bird, because my bird's going to be kind of like walking or tipping over on the sentiment, so he gives him some grounding so he's not just kind of floating. So I am going to add that on, and then I will add my bird. And because the sentiment on the front, obviously I needed to add something on the inside because the little birdie told me, and there you can see the action wobbler. So typically I don't show filming what I put on the inside of my cards, because generally if I do like a birthday card or something like that, I'll wait and do the inside sentiment until I know who I'm going to give it to if I'm not making it specifically for somebody, just because I might have a sentiment that would work closer towards that specific person to make it a little more personalized. But in this case, I needed to continue the sentiment on the inside. So I'm placing him down, and I am going to go back, and you'll see in the pictures, I am going to go back and tip him over a little bit more, so he's a little bit more in motion, and you'll see that in the final pictures. So I am using my Nuvo shimmer pen and just giving him a little bit of sparkle and glitter. This little guy deserves some sparkle. So now it's time to do the inside. And so for the inside of the card, I'm going to pull a sentiment from the same stamp set, and I'm just using a Lawn Fawn acrylic block here, and I'm going to be using some VersaFine black ink. Whenever I do sentiments on the inside of my card, I like to use the VersaFine black ink. It's very crisp, dark black ink, and it seems to work the best. And you'll see I probably should have put this in my Misti and did this ahead of time, but I forgot, so I'm just using what I keep my foam squares in, and it's actually one of the Tim Holtz Distress containers. I just pulled the inside out, and I'm stamping that down, and then I'm also going to take another one of the little birds and just stamp him down in the corner. And I'm not going to color him. I decided to just leave him black and white as kind of a contrast for all of the color that the little guy on the front has. And I'm just going to use that same acrylic block, pick him up, and I'm going to stamp him, I believe, in the VersaFine also. Yes. He's so cute, this fat little bird. His arms, his little wings all stretched out. The stamp set is so cute. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not a huge bird fan. If I see a bird stamp set, I'm not generally attracted to it, but this one was just adorable. And there we go. So there's the finished card. I hope you enjoyed it and got some tips, and it encouraged you to check out some of the Simon Hurley Create products. They are wonderful. I will link everything down below. If you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll consider subscribing for future videos. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much and have a great day.